Stand like Stone Cold with a few beers. Play the game, I end the game. I'm champion, I'm Triple H. Undertaker, I'm your maker. Bury the brother like Kane. Ooh, 1-3, hit the tombstone, hit the choke slam on face. Ooh, yeah, like a macho heel, tell like I'm some muscle. If you suffer like tomatoes, I'ma keep a couple models. Ooh, and you may call me HBK. When I'm tuning up the vein, you best be getting in my way. Ooh, yeah, I'm degenerate, I love it, yes, I love it. If you wait down with that, then I got 2 words for you, suck it. Too sweet, put your fangs up, too sweet.
Welcome everyone to Australia's longest running Australian wrestling podcast, Wrestle Radio Australia. I'm your host, Todd Eastman. It's very good to have you in my company this week, I'm very bad at these things. It's good to have you here anyway. I hope you all went out and enjoyed local pro wrestling this past weekend. I was involved in some myself. Well, didn't actually wrestle because, I want to keep that undefeated streak intact. And if I want to do that, it means not wrestling as much. So, yeah. Anyway, I had a good time at Venom Pro Wrestling. Quick things before we get into the meat and potatoes of this episode is I want to give a shout out to Jet Ruka. So those of you who don't know and aren't following Jet on Twitter at all or on Instagram, which I don't know why you should because he's a great guy. Jet had an accident at TCW, Tasmanian Championship Wrestling, over the weekend, and had a bit of an accident in ring and got injured. So he put up this tweet not too long ago, yesterday I think it was, or over the weekend, I can't remember off the top of my head. So it just says, update, 3 herniated discs in my neck and light spinal trauma. I've been discharged and can walk, move freely, but need to book in with a neurosurgeon to discuss recovery and rehab. Thanks again for the love. Now, as you can see here, not in the best of shape. So best wishes to Jet. He did put up a post today saying, I got good news. Put this up. I got good news at light. There is light at the end of the tunnel. You're not getting rid of me that easy. He had an appointment with the neurosurgeon, of course. Received fantastic news from the neurosurgeon today. I'm lucky to be walking, let alone having a chance to wrestle again. That is great news that he hasn't done any permanent damage and will be back as good as new in the not too distant future. And really, mate, from all of us here, from all of us in Australian wrestling, get back soon, get back safe, but make sure you take your time in getting back so you are 100% cherry ripe when you do come back, because you have a big future ahead of you if you want it. That's it. That's all right. I did actually reach out for him to come onto the show just quickly to have a chat, but he was flat out, as you can imagine. But yeah, it is what it is. So Jet, please do get well soon, mate. Our guest this week was probably a guy who doesn't care if he gets well soon. Yeah, he does actually. He's a very nice guy. The final boss, Jake Andrewartha, is my guest this week. If those of you who don't know Jake Andrewartha he is probably the most legitimate badass in Australian professional wrestling. There are a lot of guys who are tough and act tough and look tough. Jake Andrewartha is a tough dude and one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, which is probably more scary than anything else. You can see someone who can be as nice and as almost soft-spoken as what Jake is outside of the ring. When he gets into that mindset of having a match or getting ready for a match, he is truly a scary dude. And if you don't know his background, the guy won a bronze medal in the Commonwealth Games for judo and was also on the Australian Olympic team for judo. So that's a bit of a background to the guy. So he can legitimately kick some ass. And a really good chat with the guy. Some interesting stuff that he brought up in the show, and you'll find out as you listen further on. Just a little bit about mental health and all of that sort of thing as well, which was really interesting for me, for someone like me to hear and to realize about this guy, that it was really interesting to hear. So I hope you do enjoy this interview. And no views from the East this week because I had one ready to go, well, not ready to go, but recorded. I listened back to it, and it's not a fully formed thought as of yet. So I don't want to give it to you just yet when it's not a fully formed opinion, I guess, is what you can say. Because I'm going to throw to this anyway. I actually got a sponsor this week. believe it or not, someone actually silly enough to want to sponsor the show. It is 3 Count Pro Wrestling Academy up here in Queensland. They operate out of Beenleigh. They do have tryouts coming up soon. You'll see an ad for it coming up on this show. Head coach is Mark Davis, Dunkzilla, former progress wrestler. Well, I guess as soon as the world opens up, who knows what's going to happen. But he is legitimately one of the best wrestlers in this country. And for you guys up in Queensland, you are very lucky to have him. And if you do want to get into professional wrestling, I can't think of anyone better to train you than Mark Davis. So big thanks to those guys for sponsoring the show. And we'll be back after this with Jake Andrewartha here on Wrestle Radio Australia. Jake Andrewartha, thank you so much for joining us tonight, mate.
No problem at all. Here, ready to go.
Awesome. So you're back in the swing of things. I mean, look, after your last couple of matches, you had Caveman Ugg, then you had Gore. You must have actually almost been relieved to get 3 guys that weren't that size for once at the last show.
Yeah, no, it's closer to my size, and also a bit more experience. As what I've noticed so far in my career, I've either had people kind of at the same level, or maybe a little bit more less experience than me. So having UGG in a singles for the first time was really good for me. And it was good to see kind of where I was at after all these years, because I think a big thing that follows me at the moment is that, like, am I capable of certain things? Because all generally what people have seen from me is squash matches or something like that. And yeah, like it gets weighs on my own mind. Like, can I do that? Even though I've been training for as long as I have, and it's just I don't think people appreciate how hard opportunities are to come by to have a match that is on the card, that is designed, that can be, I guess in people's minds, something that's a star rated one or something like that. I think I'm really like, it's really hard to earn that kind of spot. I think that because when people say go out there and steal the show, like, it's knowing your place in the card, you like, every match isn't designed that way. You're serving a purpose. You're serving a role, and like, you can't misuse that or break that. Like, otherwise you're doing the show a disservice. So, and that's something I'm really big on. So, being in the position to finally have the match so I can do a bit more is really satisfying for me at the moment. So.
Yeah, did you feel like, I was just thinking about this as you were answering that question, did you feel like when you sort of started and when you debuted on a show, because of the background you had and the pedigree you had coming into professional wrestling, did you almost feel like you were thrown into the deep end, because they were like, well, this guy's got this much pedigree, we're going to put him straight away into this sort of a spot?
Well, it was pretty much what I asked for as well. A lot of times I find myself with whatever I do, I'm the dog that's caught the car. Like, so it's something I've wanted this whole time. I get it. I'm like, now what do I do? Like, I can't be like, I can't be woe is me, because that's what I've asked for. But it's, again, you're in that situation, you're like, oh crap, this is what I wanted. Do I actually want it or not? So so like, I think I'm one of the few, there's definitely a few now, but one of the few cases that my actual debut match, and which is I think it's much harder to come by, especially more these days, was with the MCW. So pretty much my entire career in terms of actual in-ring has been with MCW. And that's what I wanted. That was my goal when I first started training everything as well. That's, I saw them as being the pinnacle for not just the state, for Australia at the time. Things are much even more even playing field, as I feel as well. But yeah, that was always the goal. And like I said, everything I kind of wanted, I got. And it's like, okay, I think I was approached about having my debut match. I think I was aiming for like, just as a lofty goal, like, look, like end of the year, I'd like to be on a show. And it came like, I think it came, I don't even know when it was. I think it was around September or something like that. Came months beforehand. And when I was told that, I was just like, oh, like me, I always kind of show how I'm feeling about when I feel like something's out of my league. I'll really let people know about it. And that's the thing with me. I've always been the way my whole life is a confidence thing. Even though like people are like, how can you not be confident with, whatever, but I think it's, I don't know, and that has just never gone about me. I think, and with nervousness and stuff like that, and it's a good thing to see other workers and stuff like that, no matter what level they've got to, they still get nervous for every show. And I think you need that, because that shows, I guess, how much you still care, and it's something you actually want to do good with. So when that kind of feeling goes, I think that's a problem. So even though like I doubt myself a lot, I think it's a good thing that I do that, so I can still keep myself in check, and I know that's what this is what I'm wanting to do.
See, I find that so amazing, because you've been to the Commonwealth Games, you've been to the Olympics, and you're still self-doubting. That's, to me, it just shows how everything is sort of just relative to the situation you're in at the time.
Oh yeah, like I'm definitely a broken record whenever I talk to someone, because I'm like, oh, judo and wrestling, there's so many similarities, but it really is like I said, like a lot of the performance problems that I had in my judo career, my athletic career, I still carry over to wrestling. It's easier said than done. And it's like there's so many things that there's so many things that are applicable, and you truly are an athlete still doing this, and anybody that doesn't think that is either selling themselves short, or they're not taking it seriously enough. So it's because like if I still do the same kind of warm-up prep, but not obviously the exact same, but I will still get my heart rate and my body in a position that how I used to do it with judo. Like before I had my first fight, I'd want to feel like I already had a fight before I went out there. So when I go out, I generally like to try and feel like I already had a match before I've gone out there. And it's not so much just to make sure your tick is intact, but it's more or less just to, with a lot of things, it gets out that nervous energy, making sure your body's warm as well. Like it's like simple. Like I think, a lot of things can be prevented if people, I guess, treat it a little bit more seriously with what they do out there.
Yeah, that's right. It's just like I said, I just find it's so interesting that someone who's been to sort of the level that you have in like Commonwealth Games, Olympics, that sort of a level would still have that sort of nervous energy going into and I don't want to like demean it all, but just like a local wrestling show. That to me it just shows how much that you actually you care about what you're trying to do at the moment.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess it's about just wanting to do your best as well. Like it's like there's like this competitiveness, and there's also like I've always been slightly a lazy perfectionist. So that's what I mean. Like if I'm not happy with whatever I put out there, it's gonna just do my OCD head in. Like it's so, and that's what makes me nervous. Like it has to be, things have to be this way, or otherwise I'm not going to be happy. So that's why you get so nervous. It's why you want things a certain way. I don't think no matter how experienced you are in anything, that's going to go away. If not, it gets worse, because you're going to put more expectations. The higher you go up, the more you learn, the bigger pretty much the target is on your back. So it's, I guess, if I'm ever going to fool myself thinking like this will go away one day, I don't think it's going to be the case. If, like I said, it's going to get worse. And I think I see that as well with some of the guys who have done some really good stuff, and then they come back to our shows or whatever, and again, like anyone else, you're thinking, oh, why are they nervous? Like they're awesome, but bring it back, like, oh, think about you feel, Jake. Like, you know, whenever you went and did something, you know, there'd always be someone trying to go for you, and you know, there's already a set expectation from everyone that you have to perform at a certain level every time. So, and that's a hard, you know, thing to live by. It's very stressful, and it's it's not something that people can keep up forever as well. And it's not to say, like with any sport, it's not the physical side of things that eventually wear and tear and, you know, make you not want to do it anymore. It's the mental side.
Yeah. Did you feel like when you first sort of come in that you did already have a bullseye, a target on your back because of what you'd done before?
I don't know. Like, even it took like last year to really kind of understand where I was at. I always feel, and I put a question to a couple people, like, I don't know where I stand in the community, like, because I feel like I'm always, no matter what, I'm the outsider looking in, because I know, like, you know, I've built great relationships and everything like that, but it's always felt like something's been a little bit separate for me, and I just don't, like, I don't know when I came in, I don't know, go like, I've had some things kind of confirmed, like, oh, you know, oh, who's this buddy prick, you know, we've done this forever and he's already getting this kind of spot. Like, I think I heard a drop, from JXT when I first came in, and when I like actually hearing, like, oh my god, but then you know, when I actually spoke to them about it, that, you know, their opinions changed. Like, well, thankfully they like me enough. So that, but
that, and though, if you came up to me like that, the size you are, and said, "Have you got a problem?" we'd be like, "Nah, mate, you're doing great. Nah, keep going. You're doing fine."
Well, like, I don't know. It's hard. Like, I know there's always that kind of intimidation factor to, like with anyone that learns any sort of martial art, or just any kind of anything that involves combat, you know that there's always a bigger fish. And that doesn't necessarily mean in terms of physical stature, there's someone that is just someone better than you. So acting like, I don't know, you're bigger or better than anyone, it's going to come back and bite you pretty hard, because there's going to be someone come around, and even the more unassuming, and they're going to call you out on it. So it doesn't pay to not be, you know, respectful.
Yeah, no, I know exactly, because I've been in and around the business now for nearly 10 years, and sometimes I still feel like I'm a fish out of water, just slightly outside, mainly because I'm not an actual wrestler. It's probably a big part for me, but it's still, like, even though what I've done, I still feel sometimes that I'm not quite in the club. I feel like I'm the bouncer standing outside the club while everyone's sort of partying, and I never get to go in the club.
Yeah, and look, and a lot of that comes down to my personal life and my own lifestyle, what I choose to do. It doesn't quite accommodate to be one of the boys all the time, unfortunately. Not that I don't want to be, but I just can't do that. And it's not necessarily a total factor, but I think it definitely does, just because I can't make certain relationships closer or anything like that, just because I can't go do those things where what makes those bonds, you know. So and that's just what it is, and that's fine. But it's just that's again, that doesn't help if you already have confidence issues. And being sure of yourself, you know.
Yeah, I got put into a fairly large position fairly early on, where I felt like, for me, I couldn't do all that sort of stuff, because I had to sort of separate myself from the, when you're like in a booking position, and you don't want people to feel like if they're your mates that you're looking after them, or if you don't like them, you're getting rid of them, sort of thing, not using them. So I think that was another reason why, because I just sort of always kept a good arm's distance, because there's going to be one day where I'm going to say, look, man, I haven't got anything at the moment for you.
Well, it sounds like you're just trying to be professional.
Yeah,
So, an uncommon thing sometimes, but that's like any job, and you should expect that, and that's the way it should be. But it's I guess, like I said, it's wrestling's one of those things where it's I can definitely see it's a lifestyle choice, it's not a hobby.
Yeah,
it's one of the, and that's the same what it was with judo for me, it was my lifestyle choice at the time. If you want to do a certain thing, otherwise you're just kind of pretending. So if you want to be all in, it has to be that way. And obviously with that comes, you know, drama, interpersonal problems, all these kind of things and stuff like that. And yeah, it's just the way that it is, really. So
So over the last, how many years have you been working now?
So my story is a bit weird, and I've said it a few times, but basically, this is my 5th actual year of wrestling, like as in actually having matches. I technically have been involved with wrestling, I guess now for 7 years. So 2014 is when I first started getting involved, and I pretty much was just brought in by Joel Bateman to NAW New Age Wrestling to pretty much up on people when I didn't do a day of training. They just trust me to go in there and just do what I do. So, but yeah, then I actually finally bit the bullet properly and started training at a Vicious Pursuit in 2000. And I was there. I was on and off. Just I did something as like supplementary training because I was still trying to qualify for the 2016 Rio Olympics.
Oh wow!
So like so I had I had my taste, and obviously I wasn't going to let go, but I still had, fish to fry, and I didn't fully commit to actually, I guess, more of a full-time training schedule until I retired in 2016. So I think
really, how can you, when that's like when you're training to be an Olympic competitor, that's got to pretty much dominate 90% of your time, I would imagine.
For those last couple of years, I think if anything, it actually kind of helped my motivation because, like, I was at the end of my road anyway. With kind of in a lot of aspects of judo, like I said earlier, it's not necessarily the physical side that gets you; it's the mental side. And there's a few things that just for me that I've struggled with. And if you've heard anything I said so far, you can kind of connect the dots. But yeah, so if anything, it helped revitalize things in a way. Like I was gonna throw in the towel years before that anyway. Like luckily someone who was involved with pro wrestling and judo, we had a good conversation, and he actually convinced me to continue on and do more in judo before I left. And if I hadn't listened to that, I wouldn't continue with the Commonwealth Games. And most probably, like for most layman people, what they consider my best achievement. So yeah, so it's weird looking back on it, but and having that kind of perspective. But especially like I said, in those last couple of years, having just that little extra other thing to look forward to, other than just the judo stuff, kept me going. So I guess but if anything, hopefully it would make me even better for when I did kind of finish up and crossed over. So
yeah. Well, did you find when we sort of all had that enforced break over last year because of COVID, did you find yourself saying, like, is this something I really want to commit to, or was it just always like I just can't wait to get back?
It's like anything. Like it's a lot, like anything that you do that you're trying to commit time into. It's a love-hate. It's a love-hate relationship. So I'm not gonna say here I'm perfect. I'm like I've always been in love, and I'm always super motivated and everything like that, because you're lying to yourself if you think so otherwise, because it's natural. It's a human thing. Even if you break it down to a sports science thing, you can't always be peaking. You have your dips and thing. You just got to hope that when you're coming into an important moment in your career, whether it be a competition or a wrestling event, that you're up here, not down here. So it's just real. And like obviously it was hard to stay motivated at COVID. It was most probably the first time in a very long time for myself that I was completely inactive in terms of training.
Yeah.
And that was a weird thing, and it was hard. It was hard because like I was luckily for me, I was still working the entire time throughout lockdown and stuff like that. I was one of the very fortunate ones that still had work. And all your focus goes into that, and I couldn't really do too much else. And like, because gyms were closed down, everything like that, and whatever I did, at home workouts, I did it for a bit, but being honest, like I stopped.
Yeah.
And I'll be a bit more brutally honest on myself than most are, but I let myself go there for a bit. And I think it's only human for what a lot of people kind of went through, and it was weird. It was weird that time where I'm just like, wow, like I'm doing actually for the first time doing nothing, and it's like, I guess that's what ended up helping motivate me wanting to come back, because it's just like I don't want that feeling again. It's a terrible feeling. It's horrible.
Yeah, I know. I was the same. I went into an almost a depression over it, because I was doing what I was doing. I was pretty much, it was a 40-hour-a-week job outside of my normal 40-hour-a-week job, and then from doing that to just like dead stop. And my wife was just like, "Oh, why don't you keep going with the podcast?" I'm like, what am I going to talk about? There's nothing happening. It was sort of like I had no real, and because like booking shows for me was a huge creative outlet, a huge something you always thought about, thinking ideas and all of that sort of stuff. And for that just to go dead, and then no real sign of it coming back anytime soon, it was just a huge thing for me. And like you, that was the first time since maybe 2018, I think, maybe, that I hadn't done any sort of booking or anything like that. So it was a complete dead stop, and I just didn't know what to do with myself for a while.
Yeah, you're definitely not the only one in that. Again, people you wouldn't think would ever have a problem with being creative or just having motivation. I remember speaking to Crackerjack about he think about that time, all that downtime, perfect time to be super creative and put a lot of effort into promos and stuff like that. I don't even from memory, and you said it himself, he didn't really do anything over that time in terms of what you expect from him. It took being back and things to happen to get going with that creative process again. Because like I said, especially when you don't see that finish line, you don't know where it is.
Yep.
You don't know when to come back. You don't know when to come on. You don't go that's when you're like, oh, okay, now I've got to, because if I don't come back now, I'm going to be in terrible position when it does come back. So that's the thing. Not having that end goal, I think, was the biggest problem. Not the fact that you couldn't do anything, but there's not seeing light at the end of the tunnel is what did a lot of people win.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Because for me to be creative, I need to know what our end point is, what my goal is. And being that I had no real goal or no end point, I had no real way to be creative. And it was just it was something that just kept feeding on itself. And it's one thing, like I'm very open. Like, if you've ever heard the show before, I'm very open with talking about this sort of issues. And then I didn't even have this show to talk about the issues I was going on through. So for me, it was a huge thing.
Yeah, and you have no excuse. There's everything. It was funny. That's the time that everyone asked for in their life. If only I had this, this time of doing nothing to do all these things, it'd be great. But the reality of it is much different to what you think.
Yeah. So how good did it feel for you? Because your first match back was what? Caveman Ugg, was it?
Yeah, it was. Super concerned. So it went from I'd only been were we even in a ring? I don't even know if I was in a ring yet. I think we were still doing rolls on mats outside and stuff like that. I might be getting my timelines wrong, but definitely wasn't in back very long. And that's something most probably I was wanting for a long time. And that's wrestling. Yeah, the opportunity comes whenever. Yeah, and you have to kind of be ready at that time. And I was as ready as I could be. And overall, I'm pretty happy with how it went down. But yeah, I guess when you really look at it, that's your first thing back. You're like, geez,
yeah. Have you got a house show or something I can do first?
Yeah.
I saw today. We'll speak about it today. Let's speak about it now. I saw today on Twitter.
Yeah.
You know the guy. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah, I know it's going to come. Yeah.
Just the comment that guy made, and I can't remember it off the top of my head right now. Does the whole thing about like you had sort of stop-start pushes, you had sort of like the start push as a singles competitor, then you had the push as helter-skelter, and now sort of this one. Does that sort of, when you see that sort of stuff, even though it's like a dude that's got like 200 followers, so it's not like it's a huge deal or anything, does that still play on your mind a little bit when you're seeing that sort of stuff, especially since like Helter Skelter looked like that was going to be a massive deal too when you guys first debuted as a team, and then the whole thing with Julian James and all of that looked like it was going to be a massive deal for MC Dub, and then it sort of just petered away.
Well, it's wrestling, isn't it? Things change, and this is what it is, and you can't take it to heart. And like I said before, I even to my own detriment, and it's something I'm learning to do a bit better. But like I can describe myself as a soldier. Yeah? Like this, I take my orders and go do it. Like I'm not. I'm definitely not one there to try and push the boundaries of what in terms of going over time or anything like that. Those things that you need to do, things that you can do in the match to kind of get more eyes on you. If I'm trying to serve a certain purpose, I serve the purpose first. Mm-hmm. So seeing the comment today, I can't think. It was pretty much saying everything I've done is so far is unsuccessful, or like it was so that more attention should have been put on others. One, I was expecting a comment like that at some point after the most recent match that I've had, which was that 3-on-1 handicap match. And to be honest, it's what I'm going for.
Exactly.
It's what you want, and it's bringing it back to thing. I guess like that whole comment itself kind of explains where wrestling is at these days in terms of people complain about how bigger companies or something like that will make decisions to break up something that was a storyline, or I don't know, a group or something like that prematurely, and they wonder why did they do it? They were so good. But then when on the other hand, when someone doesn't get something instantly, like an instant gratification, they complain about that too. This guy didn't win now, he's buried or whatever. You can't win. There's two, and so why you can't expect people to commit to either side. Yeah.
I think I put a post like that, very similar, on Twitter, saying like it was like wrestling fans, why the hell is blah blah still? He should be let go so he can go and wrestle somewhere else. And then WWE lets him go. They go, what are they doing? They don't know what the hell they're doing. It's like, what do you want? what do you want us to do?
You can't let the story play out, and then when you do, it's like, it's boring.
Yeah.
So so let it play out. Don't say anything now. Like it's when you get to the final result, look, it's wrestling. You can have your opinion on whatever you want. Is what it is. And that's up to us to deal with it and do that. But I understand that more now as well. Like when I see that, I'm like, okay, I understand now why certain people and companies and that do these things, because you're trying to keep two sides of the coin happy, and it's really hard to juggle. So
also the fans don't know what's happening behind the scenes either.
Yeah, well, without peeling anything back, there's a lot of circumstances that certain things happen that match for the reason that it did. I'm not going to go into it, but there's not necessarily all decisions that we wanted to happen.
Yeah.
So and not even imagine there's this uncontrollable elements that happened that that had to be catered for that, and that's the thing. The audience doesn't know that; they're not going to see that. So so when you see like, this is bullcrap. Why did this happen? But if you only knew.
Yeah. Well, literally, when the whole thing, the WWE releases happened last week, the only two people I was really surprised that got released were the two Aussie girls. That's partly because I'm an Aussie and I fully support them, and partly because I can see what talent they have. Like all the others, I actually, as silly as it sounds, even the Samoa Joe one, I kind of understand why they did it. And I don't know if it's because I see both sides of the business, or just the fact that I'm just a little bit more harsher with it. We're like, I love Samoa Joe. He's one of my favorite wrestlers. I've got at least 5 t-shirts with Samoa Joe on it from TNA days. But I can see from a like company standpoint why, if the guy is always getting injured and if it's a concussion thing, because you just don't know if they're coming back. I mean, you can't pay a guy a wrestler salary when he's just doing the commentating. So it's like, what do you do? What do you say? Look, our doctors aren't going to clear you, so it's either you take less money or we'll just release you. And if you want to wrestle, maybe the best thing for us to do is to release you so you can go and do that.
It's well, I wouldn't want to be in it, and exactly like you said, it's a business, and it's not defending any choices by any means or anything like that, but it's just that's the cold, harsh reality of it is like that kind of stuff is happening in businesses. Wrestling has the unique position of like everything. I don't think there's any other industry where all aspects of it is so scrutinized and like interpersonal, like
yeah.
Like I don't know, like McDonald's, like, you know, like quantify it to like, oh, someone's getting pushed into a management kind of position. There's no, you know, your customers outside there aren't going to think like, oh, this person doesn't deserve this or doesn't deserve that. Like I don't think there's any other job where it's like that, is there? Like it's
no.
And
or even
that's
when,
what I mean. And
when I was a kid and first watching wrestling, I didn't even know what a booker was. I didn't know who was it, what creative was. I didn't know it. I just watched the show. I think a lot of fans nowadays, and I mean, partly it's because they love it so much, and you can't really fault them for that. But it's like, just enjoy the show. Don't worry about what's happening behind the scenes. Don't watch the chef cook the meal. Just enjoy the meal.
yeah, I don't know. In a way, it's become its own.
I
it's
mean,
the storyline.
Honestly, if that was the way, then I wouldn't be doing this show. So I guess in some ways I'm shooting myself in the head, but it's just the way. I would rather people just enjoy the show, and like shows like these can happen because we all know what it is what it is. But just the whole, I don't like the way that everyone needs to know everything about everything. It's like, I like to be surprised. I like to, like, if someone's been signed, that's cool, but I don't want to know until I see them on TV. Because then I get that whole, oh shit, look who's been signed.
And that's the thing. That's what's kind of come back before. Like, you can't keep both sides happy. It's the age of instant gratification. And look, I'm guilty of it. Like I said, and like I said before, how things get boring. Being perfectly honest, it's really hard for me to watch wrestling now. Not because it's like because of the product itself, it's in terms of my own attention span. Because everything is just the way that information is fed to us these days. It's just different, and it's just the way that it is. It's short snippets and stuff like that. For me to sit down and watch a whole match from start to finish without pausing it 100 times and doing something else and coming back to it or whatever, it's pretty tough. It's got to be pretty engaging. And I'm not saying it's not out there, but that's just on me. It's not like not a fault of what product is out there. It's just literally how my brain works now. It's just I can't concentrate for that long.
Is it maybe like if you saw the say like a highlight package going in where like this is where the story's been going, would that be something that engages you more to maybe stick around that little bit longer to see what's going to happen? Or is it just like you said, like an attention span thing where like, all right, well, I'll try and catch it what's happening later and something like that?
Definitely, like, look, it's like I always know what's going on 100%. I know everything's going on. I know like the big moments that have been happening with everything. I definitely know all that kind of stuff, but like I don't know, but like I said, I won't know how the full match has gone. I won't know all the intricate details and stuff like that. Like I guess bigger events. Also, it comes down to a fact of also now being a worker. unfortunately, you're kind of in that position where, you know, you're the magician that knows, you know, behind this, behind it, you know what I mean? So hard, some of the awe is gone, but you also get more involved because when something's really good, you can holy crap, how's this guy so good? He's, you know, hitting all these bits and pieces, but like also, like, just trying to think how to put it into words.
Personally, I find it hard to turn off that critical side of my brain to watch it, because of the I'm constantly like analyzing a match sort of thing. When I find myself to have done that, that's telling me that those guys had a really good match, because I forgot that I was watching this and I just was into the match.
Yeah, 100%. And it's like I said, and it's gonna be pretty engaging a lot. Like, and some things are, especially you see it more happen now, things that are kind of thrown together. Instead, like I said, because of the build up, there's not as much build up. I think, like, you know, WrestleMania this year, by comparison, if you can compare it to years previous, a lot of the matches built for that was done in a month. And not saying that they've never done that, of course they've done that a lot, but the super long burn storylines aren't as much of a thing anymore. It's definitely still there, but yes, it's not as common. And I think that just comes down to how we are as people as well.
Yeah, and it also would be hard too when you haven't got a crowd there every week to get that happening, I guess, because you don't get that instant feedback from the crowd that this is going well, or because you just don't know. It's like looking at a spreadsheet about ratings, and oftentimes that doesn't tell you much anyway.
Yeah, and look, I find myself now, like, if I watch wrestling, I enjoy it 100 times more if it's live. So, like, a lot of the most wrestling I watch is the shows that I'm on, because it's, I don't know, it's more visceral. You know, just being there and in there. That's what I feel that can be lost, and that's just the way that it is. But that gets lost through film a little bit as well, and especially knowing the goings on. Like I think that doesn't. I don't know. It just changes things, and it just doesn't have the same sort of feeling.
Yeah, it's like you're 100% right. You can't. It's as good as any coverage or any like production or anything can be. It just can't replicate being in a hall, in a arena, to watch a live show. Just that electricity you get from the crowd. As I remember being at being in an MCW show, it was the one where there was when WWE was in town.
Oh, the New Horizons, I think 2018.
I think
something
so.
Like that.
It was Gino and Robbie.
Yeah.
And the electricity in that room for that main event is something that I haven't felt in, like, I hadn't felt it since I think I'd been in the ring, like ring announcing for RCW. It was like a huge match back in the day, and there was that same feeling, electricity, and just feeling that from a crowd aspect. I was like, how can you be in a crowd watching this and then go back to watching just it on TV and go, this is I'm getting the same. You just don't get the same feeling as you do being live in a seat, do you?
Yeah, especially, like I said, especially being involved now. Like, you can't get the same. You can't get the same hit. It's not the same fix.
No,
you're always chasing the dragon on that one.
So, how different is, or I guess, how different is the final boss, Jake Andrewartha, to the debuting Jake Andrewartha? How much have you changed in that time?
Chalk and cheese, I guess I'd say. Like, you compare when I first came in, very much the upstanding citizen, sports person, role model kind of stuff. That's what generally going for when I was first in there. Even the way that I spoke was much more of a like sports people, what I'd done up to that point when I was interviewed about stuff. It was very different, very earnest and honest responses, and a bit, I guess, a bit more casual. But then obviously going to now, it's pretty much. I don't like to explain it too much because, like I said, I want you
To feel
to
it.
see
Yep.
how it goes and and join those dots together. But a lot of why I am now is because of the person that I used to be. So a lot of it's resenting of that person, and being that person has turned me into the person that I am now.
I was going to say, if I was to describe it, it's like it's almost like you've turned grizzled now. If that's a description.
Grizzled. Yeah, like this. It just generally for me, it's realizing that, you know, turning my back on the world. So, you know, my family, friends, people I confide in, or, you know, by letting them go, you know, from my life, or being an influence in my life, has finally led me to become the final version of myself. Hence,
The final one.
yeah. So yeah, that's something. And I think that's and you know, I think what he thinks, that's what's good for him, and that's what will get him to what he wants in life. But it's a bit of a never-ending story of I don't know, like of being unhappiness. I guess you'd say that's the path you're going to go down.
Yeah. So I was talking, I think it was last week with Rocky Monero, because we chat a fair bit because I've known him for years, and we're just offhand. He's like, who in MCW, if you could see, would you like to manage? And I was like, honestly, I'd love to manage Jake, because like I think there's so much you can do with him, and all he needs is just that little extra, that tweak. Like he's already, you can see, I can see when with your work and how you're working now, you're starting to get that where you need to be to really just like establish yourself as a no bullshit, like I can be up in the upper card of a show sort of thing. And I was like, there's just a little tweak he needs, and he's going to be right there. It's like he's well on the path, and that's someone that I can see. Like I can see that, and I'm like, oh, I'd love to work with that guy, because I know how good he can be.
And that comes down to like truly understanding something as well. Like you can be told something early on in your career and it can make sense and you can agree with it, but knowing how to take it on board and apply it is a completely different thing. And I think that's just what's literally just come with time. Like unless you're, I don't know, super gifted, and you can do it straight away, good luck to you. I wish I was you, but I'm not. Like it's literally taken those lessons that I've learned earlier on with training and seminars and whatever like that to finally go, oh, okay, now, you know, and I can do it in whatever, you know, I thought I knew what I was applying beforehand, but you just don't until certain things happen, and you know, you have those experiences until, you know, you can really start making your mark with what you've learned.
Has there ever been a moment, like in match, like during a match or something, where something has clicked on you, like, oh, and so, that sort of thing? Or has it been sort of like afterwards you're reflecting and going, oh, if I'd have done, now I know why they were saying you should do this?
It's hard. Like anyone that has worked with me or been with me before a match, don't talk to me until after the match, because I'm a terrible person to be around, because I'm just a stress head. Like as before, like I'm neurotic in a lot of ways. So in a lot of ways, I don't think it's super fun to actually work with me at times. But that's just my opinion myself. I'm sure it's not so bad, but it sucks because I don't think I truly take things in as much Because for me, it's still just, you know, it happens all so quick out there. Like, unless you're out there and you're in it yourself, you won't understand that perspective, that it's like I said, to have those moments where you're like, for me, it's still going by a million miles an hour. That I can't do that. And I think, again, that's something that's going to take time. There's been moments, and I think I can get a lot more organic kind of reaction, especially listening to the crowd kind of stuff. But it's hard as well, like with what I portray. I kind of have to ignore a lot of that too. I can't pander to a lot of things, otherwise that's compromising myself and as well. So yeah, it's getting there.
Yeah, is that a hard balancing act? Because, like you said, you're the version that you are now is sort of like you do what you want. Is it? And learning wrestling is to also being able to listen to the crowd. Is it hard to strike that balance, or are you finding it? You're finding that balance now, or?
Yeah, look, there's even been moments, like even when before we broke, where we went into before COVID, sorry, and there was a part where I was I think the crowd was chanting for me. I forgot what they were saying, but I pandered to it. And I look back at it and I hated it. I was an idiot. Like, what am I doing? Even though it was only a small thing, I doubt anyone would notice. I'm like, no, it's like I said, to uphold a certain aura or that I'm trying to go for anyway. You can't do that. And it's very easily just to kind of, you're trying to withhold on certain instincts as well. Look, I have no idea what I'm doing as well, like anyone else. But like, I'm hoping what I'm doing is the right thing, and I'm hoping making those decisions is allowing me to get over what I'm trying to present.
Because it's got to be hard too, because when you sort of like say you've done something and you know you did it really well, and the crowd starts going, it's so hard not to let them in and go, yeah, I did. When that's not what I'm supposed to do. Shut up. This is my role. Stop it. It's got to be hard.
Yeah, it's called. Like, I'm definitely not a mute kind of character, but like compared to say like my time with Helter Skelter, where I was manic, so that allows a lot more time for me to play with the crowd or like adhere to them a lot more. I'm not completely stoic in what I'm doing now, but yeah, I have to pick and choose my moments, because otherwise I guess I've just become a more watered down version of the one previously, so it's hard, like, because everyone's trying to do something different, what they don't see, and I'm trying to, I think I'm trying to do something that not everyone else is doing in the country. And I think with this, thankfully, for certain attributes that I have, I think I'm capable of doing something that even if people try to do it, they can't. I'm lucky enough I'd be one of the only ones in that position to get a true feeling out of people in terms of not fear, whatever, like intimidation, a threatening, or like something like that. There's something that I'm hoping I can do.
Because so you would have had, I'm just thinking about it now, you would have had your WWE tryout when you were like green as grass. Then how much?
So it went hard to really cliff note the process. Yeah. I was invited to come down and watch. The tryout was designed for experienced workers and whatnot, without saying, unfortunately, who wasn't able to try out. They weren't cleared medically, and then I was being there, and like they teach you, bring your stuff,
bring your gear, yeah.
Bring your gear, yeah. So I had my gear there, and brought into a room and said, "Oh, did you bring your stuff?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I did. Yeah, I thought you might have. What's the what have you done?" I said, "Oh, I was like, 4 matches and 2 were last weekend." So I did. So I didn't do the match aspect of the tryout, but I did everything else. But yeah, I think that's pretty almost as green as you can get,
Yeah,
really. So,
yeah.
I was pretty happy with how it went, considering where I was at the time. I definitely don't think I did myself a disservice, and I've always had contact with them since. Wasn't my only opportunity. I've had another one since, but yeah, it is what it is at the moment, and you've just got to be the right place, right time, right circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So is that your ultimate goal, or are you sort of at the moment just happy
Yeah,
to be?
yeah, 100%. If you're doing something and I don't know, you don't have the ultimate goal or the ultimate potential, you can achieve, in mind or anything like that. Why do it in a certain way? But I'm becoming a bit more comfortable now, and I think, especially with the reality of what the world is like, some people think, the scene's going to go back to, kind of how it was with having internationals in or going and stuff like that, within the next year. Like, not to be a Debbie Downer or anything like that, but I don't know, like it's going to have ongoing effects. And I don't think it's going to be as easy as people may have hoped. Look, I hope so in every way, but I've become more comfortable with the fact that, like, for me, the most fulfilling thing to do is be happy what I was able to produce creatively. So it's more about, I guess, appeasing myself and my own creative ambitions now, than to, I don't know, like, achieve by being signed by XYZ, whatever. Like, so definitely, it's definitely still want that, but I think my bigger goal is to be like, oh, I was happy with that match. Like, but again, like I said, still questioning myself if I'm actually capable of a lot of things, because I don't always have the opportunity for that. But it's just patience, trust the process, and hopefully I can appease my own creative nature.
So would you be looking, because I don't know, no, you wouldn't have done too many interstate dates at all, would you have?
I haven't done any at all. It's not because I don't. I feel a little bit weird about admitting this in a public forum, but I don't actively seek bookings. I won't turn down things, but I'm presenting things. But like I said before, with my own personal life, I have to weigh up things in a certain way. And I've mentioned before, I'm the king of wanting my cake and eat it too. So I'm on a balancing act. I'm trying to balance personal life and wrestling life, trying to do both to the absolute fullest. Certain things have to be sacrificed. So hence, when I try and do something, I in terms of wrestling, I try and do it with whoever I guess I consider, or what is considered, the highest standard as possible. Not putting anything on anything, whatever. But I only have a certain amount of time, and I have to be very careful of how I use it. So yeah, like I said, I want to come back to. I don't know if you even realise I'm a South Australian guy as well. So
I didn't know that. No.
No. So a lot of people don't realise that I'm SA born and bred, and I haven't been able to do a shot over there yet. It's something I always like to do. And I said, any interstate thing I'm not against, but unfortunately the stars have to align, and there's stuff that, like, I don't know, I'll turn certain opportunities or something down, and I feel bad, like, oh, do they think I'm just an a-hole thinking I'm above it or something like that?
Yeah.
But it's literally like, it's just certain circumstances. And look, and that, that's on me as well. Like, that's too bad, so sad for me. Like, if I want to be a wrestler, I know how much sacrifice you have to make. So I can't be sad about it either, because that's my own fault as well. So without painting it another way whatsoever, I most probably don't deserve it, because there's people that do everything, and they claw and scratch and claw and to get certain opportunities. And I know, even since I've begun, I've been very, very blessed with opportunities I've been given, in terms of effort given and time served. So not saying that, like I don't actually try my best, but I know how hard it is for others when they first begin to get certain opportunities that I have, and I'm very aware and I'm very thankful for that. And it's if I was ignorant to that, would be a bit ignorant on my behalf.
Yeah. So it's sort of just like if the right thing comes up, you'd want to do it, but it's got to be the right thing. It's got to fit into what you're doing at the moment, really.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And look, depending on the circumstance and stuff like that, like, you're going to make certain things move a bit more. But yeah, again, it's just all depending.
Yeah.
Like I said,
Well, I mean, like you say it like that, and last week I interviewed Mikey Nichols, and he left NXT because he wanted to spend more time with his wife and child. So I mean, it's just priorities.
And I don't think people fully realize that sometimes as well, that like the lives that some of us have, we're all different. Look, I'm not the only one with certain responsibilities, that's for sure. Like there's plenty in my position, don't get me wrong. I'm not more special than anyone else, but yeah, it's just the things that I'm trying to uphold on my personal level that I think so is just the way that I'm going about it. But it's, and like if things things were perfect, I'd I'd be doing every weekend. I'd be chasing it, going everywhere all the time. It just is what it is. And I'm most probably my career is most probably suffered because of it. Like honestly, it is because I haven't been able to get my name out there as much. Like it's
but you still,
and
it's like a happiness balance, though, isn't it? Really, in the end of the day,
it is, and I'm trying to do that, and I don't expect any sympathy or anything because like I said, it's my choice, it's my personal, you got to own up to the choices that you make, and that's just, it is what it is. And that's what I said, why I'm very thankful for anything that I get, and at any level that I get, because it's cutthroat out there. It is what it is.
Mate, it's been great having you on the show. We've talked for a little while, sort of offline, and it's good to actually not even though we're not in the same room, sit down face to face and have a chat. For people that want to follow you and know where you're at, because I think your next day would be May, New Horizons, May
8th. I won't confirm or deny
at this point in time.
I won't confirm or deny. Somewhere read between them. I don't know.
Well, MCW's next show is on May the 8th, but you might be on, might not. We don't know as of yet.
Look, I don't know. Actually, to be honest, I really don't know. I don't know.
I think the only thing that's been announced so far is it I think it's Robbie and Brooksy for the MCW title, and I think Brat Pack and
Natural Classics.
Yeah. So even if Mr. Andrewartha isn't on that show, that's still those two matches right there.
Yeah, 100%. And look, that like I said, the one company I will commit all my full time to is with anything I do, even if I have to scale it back to one, will be MCW, and that's where you're most likely going to see me. Hopefully, if they still want to keep me around.
So how can they follow you personally on your socials, mate?
Follow me Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all with my name. I can't escape my long confusing name, Jake Andrewartha. I think Twitter is just at Jake Andrewartha together. Instagram's Jake with the _ Andrewartha, and Facebook is Jake Andrewartha Judo or something along those lines. You just in the search bar, you know how it is. So
yeah, I was thinking about it today. I was just like, because I think the first time I spelt your name, I spelt it wrong. I didn't put the R in the second half of the name, and I was just going, that poor good dude. Because like, if you want to use the whole bronze medalist, you can't use your fake name, because all they have to do is type it up and they'd find your real name anyway. Yeah, so just like stuck with the way of what you had to have.
I've lived with it obviously for a certain amount of time, so I'm very used to any any kind of way it's presented, like if it's people think it's my first and my last name, or if they always ask if it's hyphenated, or it's any kind of combination. I'm very used to it, but unfortunately, all the credentials I have attained in life is with that name, and yeah, I lose some of that going over. I've always thought about another name or something like that, but I don't know. I think I lose out on the reality of what the name brings.
Well, thank you so much for joining me tonight, mate.
No, thank you so much. Cheers.
Have you been watching all the action the past couple of weeks and thinking, I want to do that? Well, here's your chance. 3 Count Pro Wrestling Academy have their next tryout on May the 1st at 73A Logan River Road, Beenleigh, Queensland. Hit up their Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or email admin@3countfitness.com now to register your interest. Don't miss out on a chance to train under Dunkzilla Mark Davis. Cost for the tryout is $50. DM or email your interest now. Big thanks to Jake for coming on the show. Do follow him. Like I said, one of legitimately the baddest men in Australian wrestling. So, yeah, get around him if you get a chance to see him. Hit up MCW On Demand. Watch some of his stuff on there too. Really coming into his own as his career progresses. Really starting to look and get more comfortable out there, and that's when you're going to see the best side of Jake Andrewartha, the final boss. If you haven't already, guys, make sure you subscribe to WRA. It's free. You can do it on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts from, we're there. If you're on YouTube, please hit the subscribe button so you'll know exactly when and where these episodes drop. And if I can get the subscribers up now, I'm getting there slowly, surely. But the more subscribers I get, the more chance I can get to do stuff like watch-alongs with guys where we can watch a match of theirs and talk about it and that sort of stuff. Because that's stuff I'd really like to do, and to delve into the psychology of a match with someone during watching their match. I've done it a few times before on the long forms of these episodes with Rocky Monero, Adam Brooks, and Davis Storm, and Damian Slater as well. So, like, go back in the archives and watch those if you want. But it's something I'd like to do more of, and if I get a chance to, I definitely will. But again, it all depends on the support with the subscribers and that sort of stuff, because it gives me a reason to say to these guys, look, I've got X amount of subscribers. Come on, have a chat. We'll watch the match, and you can break down the psychology in the match with me, and we'll talk about it, that sort of stuff. Anyway, that's here nor there. If you do listen to us on Apple Podcasts, give us a rating review, 5-star, helps us get inside more ears and spread the word about professional wrestling in this country. Subscribe or do whatever you can to follow the streaming services that support Australian wrestling. A lot of them have them out there now. I know YouTube has Riot City Wrestling. There's a few others on YouTube. Please go and search them out. If you have a favorite promotion, basically just type it into YouTube and see what pops up, because a lot of them will put some of their full events on YouTube. I know Riot City in particular puts whole shows. That's pretty much their main source of getting their shows out there, is on YouTube for free, which is great. Of course, you got the Australian Wrestling Network that's out there. You've also got PCW and PWA. There we go. Are on Fight, so go and support them. I think they've got something coming up this weekend, or not. It's coming up soon anyway. It's the big one with the Velocities against Aussie Open. Mark Davis, of course, the head trainer at the 3 Count Pro Wrestling Academy, which is, of course, a sponsor of this week's show. We thank them for that as well. Make sure you like and subscribe or follow us on Facebook. Just search out Wrestle Radio Australia. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at Wrestle Radio AU, and I am personally on Twitter at Beast Eastman. Support the wrestlers by, like, if you're at a show and maybe you can't afford to get merch that show because you've spent your money on your ticket and you spent your money on your food and your beverages and all of that sort of stuff, that's all good. Go to wrestlermerch.com, search out your favorite wrestler. If they've got some merch on there, buy it, rep them. rep Australian wrestling. Please do support this industry that we all do love and we all do want to see as strong as we can, especially now at the moment. Like I've said it before and I'll say it again, we're so very lucky here in Australia to not be as hit by COVID as the rest of the world, where we're pretty much getting back to normal. So and every day I see capacities getting lifted, restrictions of capacity getting lifted on venues and that sort of stuff. So shows are starting to come back. I know that PWA are heading back to max watts soon, which is amazing. It's great to see. Like just last weekend, it's EPW had no restrictions on their crowds over there, which is also great to see. It's great to see us getting back to some sort of normality when it comes to having shows and then putting shows on for the public. And but yeah, just go out and support as much as you can, please. You can't really support us in any way here at WrestleRadio Australia, although you can go on Redbubble. I do have some designs up on there. Anything that we make off that, the proceeds of that go to charities of Beyond Blue and Gotcha for Life. They are two charities that we really do wholeheartedly support here at WrestleRadio Australia. Next week, hopefully at the moment, we have a very special guest coming on. He is the executive producer and co-creator of Dark Side of the Ring, the documentary series that's on SBS or SBS Viceland or Vice or whatever it is. It's on demand anyway. You can go and check out the past 2 seasons that are up to be watched on Viceland. Some really, really good episodes. If you are a professional wrestling fan, you will love these documentaries. Bruce Brody, there's Owen Hart, there's documentary on Chris Benoit, there's Kerry Von Erich, the Von Erich family, the Road Warriors, Gino Hernandez. A lot of it's because it's Dark Side of the Ring, so a lot of the controversies that have surrounded the world of professional wrestling, that these guys have done documentaries on. Brilliant documentaries, and I'm really happy and really stoked to have Evan Husney on the show this coming up week, and really looking forward to talking to him. And I have to give a big shout out to Dan St. Germain. He's if you look back in our archives, we have Dan came on the show. He's an American comedian who hosts a podcast called Wrestle Roast, which is a comedic podcast where the roast comedians who come on there and roast professional wrestlers. They also look at the NXT shows, the AEW shows, give their sort of like comic slant on reviewing them, it's a really good show. I stumbled on it not too long ago, and I really do love it. It's if you like roast comedy, you really like this show. Anyway, big shout out, big thanks to Dan for helping me hook up with Evan. So we'll be talking to him next week, and that will be hopefully up earlier than normal, because I'll have some time to edit it with a public holiday and all that sort of jazz. So that is next week. But until then, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you next week right here on Wrestle Radio Australia. So Eastman, have a good one.
It's been busy 23, got me feeling way too sweet. Yeah. Too sweet, put your fangs up. Too sweet, pour another cup. Let's be busy 23.